Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to Comicreview47 podcast, and today we're going to be looking at the Justice League movie review. So, a while back, I did a video on, is Justice League going to be good or not? And today, I'm going to tell you, I thought that Justice League was actually, a really good movie, in my opinion. Now, I'm going to start, saying the reasons why and everything, but first, I gotta let you know that there's spoilers ahead, so... if you didn't see the movie, go ahead, watch it, and then come back to this video. Anyways, now I'm going to be talking about, the good and the bad about the movie itself. Now, I'm going to review, what I liked and what I didn't like I do, in most of my podcasts. So, anyways, we'll start off with the good things. Now, first of all, they did a good job of explaining the characters. Now, I was worried about Justice League because we had 3 new characters that needed to be introduced, for example, when Avengers came out, we didn't really need an introduction of characters. We pretty much already knew who everyone was, Black Widow, we didn't really know too much, or Hawkeye that much, but, they didn't really need too much of an introduction. So, with Justice League, though, they did not have their own solo movies except for Wonder Woman and Superman, and Batman was pretty much introduced in Batman v Superman. So those 3 characters are pretty much already established in the DC Extended Universe. So, yeah, we had Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg. Now, in this, in this context, we see that, Flash visits his dad in jail because he was accused of murdering his mom. Of killing his mom. Like we see in the Flash TV series and as we see in the comics. So I feel like in this movie, Flash was a little more comedic. We see Cyborg too. We see that he was fused with the mother box. A little bit of that power he gained, and he was really confused about who he was, and he didn't want to show his face to anyone and things like that. And then we also see that Aquaman is King of Atlantis, and I thought that was pretty cool. And then they kind of show his attitude and how he's the most badass one, which is ironic because most people really don't think Aquaman isn't badass. Everyone thinks that Aquaman's the lame one just because of how he looks. No one really reads comics, so they just kind of assume that he's lame just because he talks to fish. That's not his only power. He doesn't even talk to fish. He just kind of nudges them, towards what they want to communicate. So here in this movie, they did a really good job with his costume design, which made him look really good with the beard and everything that make him look really badass. Now I'll talk about all these characters in a bit. The next thing I want to talk about. I'm stuttering a lot, aren't I? So this movie went according to Justice League War, which is a comic from the New 52, which is Justice League Volume 1. Now this is a really good comic. It was written by Jeff Johns and it was drawn by Jim Lee. I'd really recommend it if you guys haven't read it yet. I've read it and I thought it was really good. So they already made an animated movie about it in the DCEU. So if you don't want to read the comic, or if you've already read it, then go watch the movie called Justice League War. So anyways, the movie is based on the comic, not 100%, but pretty well based on comics. Usually when we see movies, they have the same comic book title, but they're extremely loosely based on the actual storyline, so they hardly base themselves on it. But in this case with Justice League, they really did base themselves a lot on the Justice League War comic, which was really nice. It was a good touch that they added to it. So, and the storyline is pretty much Darkseid invading. It's pretty much the end of the world. Batman is investigating the parademons, I think they're called, which is Darkseid's minions or soldiers or whatever, things like that. That's what we see in the Justice League movie. We see that the parademons, we see a couple of them. We see one in the beginning. Then later we see a couple more in the Amazon area. I think it was the Mascara, and things like that. So I thought that was pretty cool how they showed the parademons, and they looked really comically accurate. Now I'll talk about the physical appearances of everyone in a bit. I'll talk about a lot of things towards the end or while I go through this podcast. So they pretty much do a good job relating Batman to Justice League War. Now in the comic, Green Lantern was there. Now obviously this is another thing I want to talk about. I think it was a good idea that the DC Extended Universe didn't put Green Lantern in this movie, because Green Lantern, the movie that they did a few years back, Emerald Knights, it didn't really have a good reputation. Actually, the movie did really bad, as I talked about in my previous podcast. You guys should check that out too. Yeah, so I really like how I was like really praying to myself. I was like, I hope they do this on Justice League War, and I was like, when I was watching the movie, I was like, no, they're not gonna do the movie based on the comic, and they did. I was like, oh wow, this is actually really cool. But anyways, we'll talk about like the beginning. So in the beginning, there's like a really cool like Batman scene, like, you know, where Batman's fighting the Parademon, and also Batman's fighting a just some random bad guy. So I thought that was pretty classic Batman. It felt like for a few minutes, it felt like a Batman solo movie all of a sudden. And I just like got really engaged in the movie. That really got me into the movie. Like, Batman v Superman did a pretty good job of pulling you in the movie in the beginning, but then it got really boring as the movie went on. But here in Justice League, they got you from the beginning, and they got you hooked until the end. At least that was in my case. So, you know, we see Batman being his typical Dark Knight style. You know, we see that he moves really quick. It's nighttime. You know, we see him with like the Parademon, and he's wondering like what's going on. But you know, just as we see in the Justice League War comic, the Parademon blows up in the comic, and he says for Darkseid. In the movie, he blows up, but he doesn't talk. So, you know, I thought that was really cool how they kind of related it to the comic. Okay, so now I'm gonna talk about like you know, other, like, the introductions were actually pretty cool. You know, we have Aquaman, and they show him like you know, Batman is looking for him. We see that you know, Batman is willing to bribe Aquaman and things like that. You know, we see Wonder Woman, who in the beginning she also, you know, does like a superhero type thing. You know, there was a guy trying to explode a building. You know, Wonder Woman took out all the guys. I really love how they did her super speed in the beginning of the movie. You know, she used her like bracelets to protect all the civilians, and she went like super quick. She went faster than the dude who was shooting his machine gun. I thought that was really epic. Who else? We got Cyborg too. You know, I like Cyborg's you know, story. It's really tragic. You know, it's like, okay, so now he's fused with the Parademons, and now he's like this like weird humanoid thing, and we see that you know, his dad was trying to save him, and because I think Cyborg's dad, like, it was pretty much exactly like the comic. So like his dad like did an experiment with the mother box that exploded. His son was about to die, and in order to save him, they had to put some, you know, extra parts so he could be alive, although he was no longer completely human. He was not more of a cyborg, which is half human, half robot. So I thought that was really cool how, you know, Cyborg, you know, didn't really like his dad that much, and, you know, he was pretty mad at him for doing that. And in the comic, we also see that, you know, his dad never came to any of his football games and things like that, so that's more reason to be hateful toward his dad, because he never really cared for him that much. He was never really around for him. So, although we don't see that in the movie, because I feel like there was a lack of time. The movie was only around 2 hours, and a little bit more than that. I feel like the movie could have gone on for 3 hours if necessary, honestly. But each individual character, they're going to be going in their own solo movie. Wonder Woman, we already saw who she is, so I thought that was really nice how we didn't have to see her origin, because, you know, it would be repetitive. Who else? Flash. So Batman, you know, recruits Flash, right? And I thought that Flash was really funny, because Batman's looking around, and he already knows that Flash is Barry Allen, right? So, you know, Barry Allen is still, you know, lying to him. He's saying, I'm not Flash. And then Batman looks around his room, and he sees that there's a heat-resistant suit that they use for NASA or things or something like that. He's like, he says he does it for competitive ice skating. For really competitive ice skating, I thought that was pretty funny. You know, Batman throws his batarang at him. He uses the Speed Force. I actually like the way they put the Speed Force in this movie. They don't really exactly explain the Speed Force itself, because I didn't think it was that necessary, like, anyways, because Flash is going to have his own movie later, and, you know, that's not too relevant towards the storyline. So I thought that was pretty cool the way they did that. Yeah, so Batman throws his batarang at him, and he grabs it, and then he's saying, "Can I keep this?" I thought that was funny too. But the problem was, all the good jokes are kind of used in the trailer, so I was like, all the good jokes in the beginning. There was a lot of good jokes throughout the movie, and I actually found myself laughing, so I thought that was pretty good. DC, what they did in this movie was pretty good. They had a good balance between seriousness and, comedy. The MCU, I feel like they do too much comedy, and they don't really take the movies seriously, which is kind of a shame, honestly. So that's why I like DC. DC's more serious, but I feel like in Justice League, it's a little more lighthearted. It's both. It's a good balance. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, so I already talked about Cyborg, too. So Cyborg, to me, was actually my favorite character. To me, he was the best character, the one with the most depth, the one more, he felt more like a leader to me. So I was surprised. I thought Cyborg was just going to be have the less amount of screen time. I thought he was going to be uninteresting, etc. But actually, he has a good backstory. He's serious. He's trying to control his powers, but he can't, and that actually causes Superman to be agitated. Well, which I'll talk about later. And I also like that he's okay. So once the movie ends and they defeat Steppenwolf, Cyborg says "Booyah." I thought that was really cool. Cyborg kind of seemed like Teen Titans. He gave me those kind of vibes, from the series. Now, of course, he wasn't as silly, but I feel like it was the beginning of Cyborg. So Cyborg was a mix between the New 52 Justice League comic and the Teen Titans origin series episode. So everyone saw the Teen Titans show, I'm pretty sure. There was an origin story called Teen Titans Go. It was an episode in which Cyborg was shown more serious, not very, he wasn't laughing, not cracking too many jokes because he just acquired his powers and he didn't like it and he thought he was a freak and things like that. So I thought they really represented that really well with this movie. So I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, so there was a lot of Flash versus Superman, which I was not expecting at all, and I loved it. So, we see when, actually, I wonder if I should mention this now or later, but okay, I'll just mention it later. Okay, so when Superman is agitated, because Cyborg, hits him with a sonic blast on accident because he can't control his powers at that time. I like how Flash is about to go up from behind. That was a pretty funny moment. And then Superman, in super slow-mo, he looks at Flash. He's actually, Flash is the one of the fastest beings on Earth, and yet Superman is able to see him. And that tells you how overpowered Superman can be sometimes. So he actually sees Flash in motion and almost punches him. So, Flash is caught off guard by this. So, Superman is about to throw his first punch. Flash dodges it. And he's like, whoa, what the heck? So then, he taps into the Speed Force even more. He goes, fast. And he's really worried because Superman's going to hit him. Superman does manage to hit him, once. And just with that one punch, Flash is pretty much almost, down for the count. So I thought that was really cool. Superman, I don't know. It was just and also, I want to talk about the first post-credit scene. I know I'm going back and forth between the movie here, but, I need to talk about these things going back and forth. So, in the first post-credit scene, we see, if you guys remember, we see Superman racing against Flash. Now, I wish they would have done a sort of charity thing like they always do. But anyways, yeah. So, they were doing a race. I thought that was pretty funny. Superman cracked a joke. He's like, if I win, then you're off the team. And Flash actually believed it for a second, And that was pretty funny. I like the dynamic between Flash and Superman. That was pretty cool. I never thought I'd be seeing that in the big screen, and I felt so excited. So, anyway, so there's that. And then, they race. Although we never see who actually wins. I was like, oh, I thought, obviously Flash would win because Flash just taps into the Speed Force. He's literally the fastest being alive. Superman is fast, but in a way, he's like Jay Garrick because Jay Garrick is fast, but he's not tapped into the Speed Force. So Superman isn't as fast as the Flash is in the comics or in the DC Extended Universe, as we see Flash dodge Superman's punches as well. So yeah. I thought that was pretty funny. Oh, and also, another reason why Flash would win is because I want to talk about this a little. In the Flash Rebirth, which is a really cool storyline, you guys should check that out. Flash was briefly turned into the Black Flash, and then I think he was like out racing the Black Flash energy around him or something like that. And then Superman was next to him, right? And then Superman was telling him, I could go faster than you. And then Flash was like, no, you can't. And then he was saying that the reason why Superman and Flash would always tie was because those are for charity. And if one of them wins, they're going to earn less money for charity. So that was a really cool moment. Flash is like, I could have gone a lot faster. But since it was for the people, he went as like same speed as Superman. So he's implying that Superman is a lot slower compared to him. So that's really cool. Anyways, what else? There was a Green Lantern cameo. I thought that was pretty cool. In the beginning, when we see the origin of Steppenwolf, who's the DCEU villain, we see the Amazons, and we see one Green Lantern fighting next to him. His cameo was only like for a minute, but that was pretty cool to see. And, as soon as the Green Lantern died, his ring just went straight to another person, as the Green Lantern origin is. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I already talked about, most of the characters. Now, Batman was actually pretty good in this movie. I thought he was pretty good. Now, later I'm going to talk about what I didn't like about, the movie and things like that. So, okay, so another thing I did like, they brought Superman back from the dead. Now, I actually thought Superman was, already alive, and maybe he either faked his death, or he was, in a coma, or something like that, from the Superman, the Death of Superman storyline, how he comes back from the dead. He was, in a sort of coma-ish thing. Yeah, I thought it was like that. But no, he really was dead, and they actually brought him back to life. So I thought that was pretty cool how, for once in a superhero movie, someone actually dies, and they actually bring him to life. I thought that was pretty cool. I don't think I've ever seen anyone being brought back to life like that before. So anyways, yeah, the idea was pretty crazy to bring him back to life, might I add. What else? Steppenwolf was actually threatening, but, later he was not so threatening. So in the beginning, we see him, do super leaps. He swings his axe down. He completely annihilates an entire land for the Amazons. We see how Steppenwolf, in his origin story, was attacking millions of Amazons. They said in the movie, all from one guy. Now, yeah. So they show Steppenwolf as pretty threatening, but later he's not really much of a threat. All he's doing is just grabbing the pieces and not even attempting to fight hardly. When Aquaman was fighting him, he fought a little, but then he just kind of teleported out. So I was like, whoa, what the heck? Oh, and speaking of Aquaman, I did like Mara's not cameo, but short appearance, because there's gonna be an Aquaman solo movie. I'm pretty excited for that too. Mara was actually pretty cool in this movie. I thought she was pretty serious. She looked really powerful. She took a good hit from Steppenwolf, and she was still fine. Things like that. We also have and also there was a lot of good action. We have the Superman fight with Flash. We have the end fight with Steppenwolf. We have the fight with Steppenwolf with the Amazons. We have the fight Batman with the Parademon and the other guy, which is pretty cool. It's more of a street fight. What else? There was also I can't remember what other fights there were. There was a good amount, though. I really liked the action. All the characters looked pretty comically accurate. Flash. Cyborg was the most comically accurate person I could think of, both physically and according to the comics themselves, storyline-wise. Wonder Woman was pretty comically accurate too. Batman was too, and I'll talk about him in a bit. Aquaman, he was, but his appearance looked very different. And other than that, yeah, I think I was pretty good with the comics. Okay, so yeah, moving on to the last thing I want to mention. So the end credits scene, there was two of them. One that I said that was Superman versus Flash. which is like a really good end credit scene. I thought that was funny, and I actually didn't think there was gonna be an end credit scene. Like I was about to step out of the movie theater. I was like, no, wait, maybe there is gonna be an end credit scene. And to my surprise, there's actually two of them, and they were really good ones too. And it was pretty good. Okay, so the first one was that, and the second one, okay, so we see Lex Luthor and Deathstroke, and toward in a yacht, $1 million yacht, or how many millions, I don't know. Lex Luthor is rich. We see Lex Luthor bald. He looks a little more comically accurate. I'll talk about him in a bit. And we see Deathstroke. Deathstroke looks pretty cool. We're gonna so I'm like I can't even put my ideas together. Okay, so Deathstroke pretty much shows. I forgot what they were. Oh yeah. So Lex Luthor was talking to Deathstroke. He was saying we should make our own team of villains. So that was really cool because I don't think like we've ever seen a team of actual villains. Now Suicide Squad doesn't count because to me they felt more like superheroes than villains, and that movie wasn't really good to begin with. Like I actually liked it, but then later I didn't like it. I don't know. Suicide Squad doesn't really count in my opinion. So besides that, we've never really seen a team of supervillains go up a team of superheroes. Like, like I've always wanted to see the Sinister Six on the big screen, but that'd be really cool to see Lex Luthor, in his armor, or maybe some, cool tech. Deathstroke. Deathstroke is a really good villain. Like he's a Teen Titans villain, which is really cool. And we might see. I'm thinking maybe Darkseid. I'm not sure. Maybe. I think Darkseid is gonna reappear for Justice League 2. I think that'd be really cool. But anyways, yeah, that's the good stuff. Now I'm gonna move on to the bad stuff. So the bad stuff. There was no Darkseid. Now that wasn't really much of a disappointment, but Steppenwolf was pretty much the same thing as Darkseid in this movie. Like he acted the same as the Justice League War movie. Now I don't know why they decided to go with Steppenwolf instead of Darkseid. I thought Steppenwolf was Darkseid's like powerful assistant. I think he is, but I don't know. I don't know why Darkseid didn't help out with the invasion or didn't really do anything. The only mention of Darkseid was in the movie was like a brief sentence where Steppenwolf was charging up the cubes and he said for Darkseid. That's it. That was the only mention of him. And I think the DCEU did it because maybe Darkseid would look too much like Thanos, and then, maybe fans would be upset that Darkseid would be another Thanos. I don't know. There were some complications with that, I've heard. Another thing I didn't like, Flash wasn't too smart. So, like, he was, like, they showed Flash, like, smart, but he only had a brief, like, few moments. Like, we have the moment where, like, he said, where Batman, was saying that he was fast, and Flash was saying that it was an overstatement. He was explaining about the Speed Force a little, and the only other time he seemed like intelligent, like I'm not talking about like regular smart. I'm talking about like his crime lab smart. I forgot what it was called. The thing that he studies. I can't remember right now, but like the other moment that he was like really intelligent was like when he was talking about like charging up the cube at within a tremendous amount of energy, and concentrating his lightning towards the cube to charge it up to revive Superman from the dead and things like that. So, but other than that, Flash just sounded like a regular dude. He sounded like a Justice League fan or something. But I actually liked Flash a lot. He was pretty funny, so I'll forgive what they did there because I feel like Flash is gonna be more serious in his origin story. I really feel like that. So, like in a solo movie. So I'll let that one go. There was a cliche ending. Also another thing I want to mention. So, like, okay, so there was that ending where, okay, so Steppenwolf was defeated, right? But that's not the cliche part. The cliche part was that the parademons turned against him. So, it's like, I've seen that ending a lot in cartoons or live action movies. I can't really remember which one specifically, but it's like in the back of my mind. It's like deja vu kind of thing. It's like, it's kind of like his own plan goes back against him. I felt like that was super cliche. Like, okay, so the parademons pretty much smell fear. they detect fear, and now Steppenwolf was afraid, so now they all went after him, and it's like having his own people turn against him. I don't know. I've seen that so many times before. It was like, really? But okay, whatever. Uh, Another thing was the CGI Superman mustache. That wasn't a big deal, honestly. The CGI looked really cool, but honestly, I don't know why Henry Cavill couldn't have just shaved for the role of Superman. Like, really, you can have just shaved instead of making them do CGI. Like, I thought that was pretty stupid. But anyways, the CGI looked a little weird at times. It kind of looked like his upper lip was like inside a little bit, but not really. Like, that was like a minor detail. Like I wouldn't have even like known the difference. Like, I wouldn't have known it was CGI if I didn't know beforehand. But that's like very little problem, like it doesn't really matter that much. Okay, so one problem that I have, besides Superman, is Batman. So Batman was not really too much of a detective. Now, he had really good skills. He was the one who united the League. Batman seemed like a good leader, things like that, and but he wasn't really much of a detective, and that's a really important aspect to Batman. He even has a series called Detective Comics. Like, Batman is super intelligent. He's the greatest detective in the world, quite possibly. So yeah, like everything he knows, pretty much either the computer tells him, or Wonder Woman was telling her about Steppenwolf, or Flash told him by reading the Batcave computers, or things like that. Like, Batman didn't really figure out much for himself, which was a complaint I had, yeah. But, like I said, the movie was good enough to just kind of forgive these, like, bad aspects. Every movie is going to have some bad aspects, so, it's like, whatever. But, yeah, I feel like they could have worked on Batman's detective work a little more. Okay, another thing, it's like, so there was this random family that they put in the movie. There were just some civilians that they put that were inside the invasion thing, where like there was like some like roots growing off the ground and stuff like that. I don't know why they kept showing that family. Like, I feel like they try to put the point of view of a family, but that didn't really work too much, because to me it seemed a little more like filler. Like, they could have easily taken that out and added a little more to like either Aquaman's story or Flash's story, or Cyborg's story. I feel like they could have taken out that and added more to the superhero story. I would have loved that a lot more. But yeah, although I thought that was pretty funny that the girl was getting bug spray when she saw the parademons. I thought that was pretty funny. Okay, so my last thing that I didn't like, and this is probably like the worst thing, or not the worst thing, probably, I think. So Lex Luthor in the end credit scene. Ugh, like, I just didn't like Lex Luthor in Batman v Superman. He wasn't very comically accurate. The actor is, like, he's a good actor, right? Like, I think his name is Jesse Eisenberg. I'm pretty sure that's his name. So yeah, he's a good actor, but it's not, the role is not meant for me. Or, what am I saying? The role isn't meant for him. So, like, it's kind of like Will Smith being the role for Deadshot. So, Will Smith acted, Will Smith, we all know he's a good actor, but he's not a good Deadshot, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really suit him. So, same thing with Jesse Eisenberg. Jesse Eisenberg isn't really a good Lex Luthor. And plus, I don't know why Lex Luthor is always like some sort of like religious dude. Like, he's always talking about God and man and like capes, and I don't know what he's always like blabbering about. In the yacht, in the post-credit scene, he was talking about like he got back from a trip from God or something like that. Like, it didn't make any sense. He never makes sense. Yeah, that was my last complaint. Yeah, guys, I hope you liked the podcast. This is actually a pretty long one, because the movie had a lot of content, because they had all the characters together. To me, it felt like a good movie. Like, to me, it felt like a solid movie. Although, according to Rotten Tomatoes, it did really bad. Although, in my opinion, it was a really good movie. Now, I'm not one of those people that are just blindly saying that a movie's good just because I'm a DC fan or a Marvel fan. I feel like a lot of people tend to do that. Like, just because most of the movies are good, they just stay loyal to it. And even if there's a bad movie, they say that it's good anyways. I'm not that kind of person. I judge a movie according to my own critiques and not just because I like DC or Marvel. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for this podcast. Like, I have another podcast if you want to check it out. It's called the Will Justice League Be Good? You know, like where I was guessing, you know, doing some work on checking out if Justice League was good or not. You guys should check out that podcast to see, you know, what I was thinking back then. You know, some other things that I was analyzing, and that's pretty much it, guys. I'm pretty much done with this video, and I upload, you know, on Sunday night or Monday night, so you guys should check out for that. And that's pretty much it, guys. Be sure to leave a like in this video and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.